Hello everyone and welcome to Season of War. Tonight we are back with another short Age of Sigmar video. My name is Fabian and today we're gonna talk about the first round of rules update for the new edition of Age of Sigmar. Without further ado, let's get started. First, let's start with a quick overview of this first rules update. The first thing to note is that all these changes will be implemented in the online version of the documents, and they are separated in three parts. First, you have the addenda, that's all the things that needs to be added, then the errata, to fix things that are already in the printed documents, and finally the FAQ, in which they're gonna answer common questions. First, for the core rules update, we have three addenda. The first one is related to dice and says that when you reroll dice, you cannot reroll it more than once, and it all happens before modifiers. Then the next one is pretty important, and it's about slain models. You must remove the fewest model possible to make the units coherent. And then finally, a small addenda on the other effects. In case of delayed effects, you resolve the effects of the active player first. Regarding the errata for the core rules, the first one is just fixing a typo. The second errata is very important. It's regarding weapon abilities, and more precisely the companion ability. With the change, the weapon is not affected by friendly abilities that affect either the weapon characteristic or the attack sequence. Now it's easier. Any friendly ability that affects the weapon just does not apply. And the last part is just a small errata regarding objective control. You can only contest one objective for objective control, but you can still contest multiple objectives for other purposes. And finally, for the core rules, we have a few FAQs. I won't go over all of them, I'll let you read them. We're just gonna focus on the main ones. The first one is a clarification of what is a better save. It's just a save with a lower value. Then a question that's pretty common is, can you stack multiple instances of the same anti-X? If you have anti-hero and anti-cavalry, you will get +2 rand against a cavalry hero, but if you have two instances of +1 rand against infantry, you will not get +2. Second one is a question that has been asked since almost the beginning of the previews. And the answer is yes, you still get the -1 hit for abilities that say that you ignore guarded hero when picking the target. Only abilities that says you just ignore guarded hero will make it that you don't get the -1 hit. Like for instance the Con of Hunters with bows. Then we're gonna jump to the advanced rules. And first we have the addenda. The first one is referring to the faction terrain that allow you to put a model on top of them, like the Corn Altar. And basically it says that you measure range and visibility from the terrain instead of the model. And then we have a few addenda for the Regiments of Renown. You cannot include more than one, they cannot use any faction rules of your army, and if you can have a replacement unit for a unit in that regiment, it still counts as being part of that Regiment of Renown. For the erratas, the first one is just a small typo. The next one is pretty massive, and that's something that raised a lot of questions when rules got revealed. And basically what it changes is that now you are not considered to be in combat if you are within 3 of a static manifestation during the charge phase. So you are not stuck and you can actually charge. Before that, you were considered to be in combat within 3, so you were not able to charge. And then for the changes, we just have some small changes, one to an article and the other one to the journal. And now onto the FAQs for the advanced rules. First, we have a few questions about shooting and more precisely covering fire, and the confirmation that you cannot use it if you're in combat and that you have to shoot the closest eligible unit. So if the closest unit is not eligible, you just get the next one. Regarding faction terrain, there was a confusion about abilities, and it's confirmed that they still are subject to the rules of 1. You can set up within 9 of faction terrain, unless they have a model on top of them, like the Shrine Lumina. And faction terrain cannot be affected by friendly abilities. In the same manner, they cannot use command abilities, they cannot be targeted by covering fire, and they don't count for battle tactics that says that you have to destroy a unit. And same as for deploying units, you can move away from a terrain freely without having to retreat, unless there is a model on top of it. Regarding magic, there was a small confusion because in the core rules you have as examples Mystic Shield and Resurrection, and no, you cannot use these, they are just examples, and they are from the Path to Glory battle pack. For manifestation, we have roughly the same questions and answers as faction terrains. Manifestations are subject to the rules of 1, and you have to set up outside of 9 of a manifestation unless they have a move characteristic of 0, they are static, and in that case you can set up anywhere, you just ignore them for setup purposes. Same as faction terrain, they are not affected by friendly abilities, they cannot use command abilities, they cannot be selected as a target of covering fire, and they don't count for battle tactics that require to destroy a unit. You don't need to use retreat to move away from a manifestation that is static, and if a manifestation has a move characteristic, they cannot move in the following movement phase after they are set up. For that, they follow the same restriction as any unit. Then for army composition, we have a few questions, including one that basically confirms that there is no more allies in the game. The only thing we have left to get units from other faction is the regiments of renown. And regarding battle tactics, a question if you are within 3 of a static manifestation or faction terrain at the end of the turn, do you count as being combat? You only count as being combat if you are within 3 of a manifestation that can move, or within 3 of a faction terrain that has a model on top of it. The next section is the glossary updates, and we have a few addenda. They add the definition of fought, drops, remove from play and remove from the battlefield, and finally used. And then a couple errata. For champion, the model's weapons have +1 attack, simple. And for underdog, there was an inconsistency between the core rules and the glossary, and now it's fixed. The underdog is the player with the fewest victory points, and if it's a tie, there is no underdog. And finally, there are a few spearhead updates too. The addenda mostly add just a few missing keywords. And for the frequently asked questions, there is one that's actually pretty important. Some battle tactics require to have more friendly models than enemy models contesting a terrain feature. And it's confirmed for this one that it's not just the number of models, but you use their control score. So basically the battle tactic just asks you to control that terrain feature. And as a quick note, there are also some updates for the faction focus, but since all the indexes are PDFs and online content, you should only see directly the updated version. These updates will only be for the printed cards that will come probably later. Well, that will be it for the rules update. Just a little heads up of what's coming. Thank you so much for watching. Please let us know in the comments below what you thought, and see you in the next one.